You're on a plane on the way to somewhere. Suddenly, the plane crashes and lands on a random island, a place you never expected to land. And what you confront there is something you've never expected before. There are people speaking languages that you've never heard of, wearing attire you've only seen in fiction movies, and signboards covered with foreign letters. In this strange island, you feel lost, helpless, and devastated. You ask yourself, how on earth are you going to survive? As the protagonist of this hopeless story, could you all guess what I did? Well, I just rammed my head on the ground. I mean, not literally. Have you heard of the phrase, 맨 땅에 헤딩? 맨 땅에 헤딩 is a Korean expression which, when literally translated, means ramming my head on the ground. However, it figuratively means to recklessly try something difficult, or perhaps impossible on your own, without prior knowledge or experience. Hi, my name is EunBin, and today I want to talk about some bold challenges that I faced in my life. In my childhood, there have been many instances where I was thrown into a completely new environment and had to adjust there, even when I had already adjusted to my previous one. The first one was when our family moved to Japan shortly after I was born. Then the second one was when we went back to Korea 6 years later, when I was in elementary school. Now that I think of it, I already rammed my head on the ground many times before I even came to my current school. Learning new languages and fitting in different cultures were certainly not easy as a child and as a foreigner. However, kids learn fast, and I was able to perfectly adjust and enjoy my life until one day, my mom announced, "We're moving back to Japan." Although I was a bit surprised, I calmly asked, "When?" And my mom said, 2 months later. 2 months. It's a bit soon, but it was okay because I thought that I was going to go to a Korean school in Shinjuku. So I asked my mom, "Oh, so am I joining the Korean school?" And she said, "No, you'll be going to an international school." Now I was panicking. What on earth is an international school? Right, I didn't even know what international schools were. And when I did find out what they were, one thing came to my mind. Oh, I'm screwed. Everything is in English there. Speaking, listening, writing, taking tests, and even making friends. Everything is in English in international schools. And yet, I barely knew the language. I wasn't sure if I could do well in an international school when the last English test I took in Korean middle school scored probably the lowest in my grade because I didn't know how to spell Wednesday. I honestly thought that it was just Wednesday that spelled weirdly at that moment, but now I had to do way more things than that in English in my new school. On the first day of school, I felt lost, helpless, and devastated. When I got to school, I was assigned to a homeroom and was introduced to my classmates. When they told me their names, I had to bring out my little notebook to write down their names like Lisa and Maya that I didn't even know how to spell. Then the classes began, and my anxiety grew every class. After a long day of not being able to understand anything and feeling incompetent, I dashed to my house. After I pulled a blanket over my head, I burst into tears. What am I going to do now? I couldn't understand anything at school today. How am I going to study in English? Will I even be able to make friends? I was scared. I was afraid to go to school the next day. I was so scared that I'll never be able to catch up with my classmates who were so far ahead. At once, I thought that attending to an international school for situations like mine is just impossible. Then the next time, I started to feel like I'm just a weird one, or the wrong one among everyone who's fluent in English. And that was another ground I rammed my head on. And yeah, it was one of the greatest learning experiences in my life. Let's say our life is like a race. We all run towards the finish line for different goals. But sometimes, when life hits you hard, you might trip and fall down because your running speed was too fast. Seeing other people running ahead of you, you might feel like you should quickly get up and continue running. But you shouldn't just ignore your pain like that. Because from my experience, being able to process my emotions at those moments was also important because I became more eager to find solutions to my problem. Feeling demoralized could be temporary, as long as we focus on what we can control, understand the situation we're in, and find ways to improve. And it's not too late to get up and see where you are after that. Because when you stand up and zoom into your own track, you'll see where you are regardless of where others are. You've come very far, sometimes overcoming some hurdles in your life. And guess what? You've come even farther by falling down and rolling over just now. You've come as much as you fell. What I'm trying to say here is that challenges are also an important part of your life and that they don't hold on to life. Instead, they bring you closer to the finish line. Do you know when people go to gym and lift weights? It's to grow strength. The heavier you lift, the more strength you gain in the long run. And it's the same for our lives. The more effort your hardship requires you to overcome, the more strength you gain to become a stronger person. As I started to stand up after ramming my head on the ground, I realized that adjusting to my new school was the only choice I had. And I thought, oh, I have to study really hard to survive here. It became almost like a matter of life and death to me. So I recklessly pronounced my troubles to the teachers and peers around me. This is one of the features of ramming your head on the ground, being reckless. Although your task may be difficult, you just recklessly begin to try and take action. Following my desperate requests, many helped me, but especially my English teacher taught me countless times after school how to read things properly, how to spell things correctly, how to write essays, and most importantly, how to trust myself. As I continued to recklessly try and adjust, do you know what was holding me back? It was having to see the fluctuating possibilities of achieving my goal each and every day. Among all the days I challenged myself to learn English and adjust, some days I felt like I could catch up others and be like others soon. I felt proud of what I was doing. But many days, when I got to see where I was compared to where other people are, I thought maybe all my efforts is just useless after all because my progress was barely visible. However, one day during an after-school session, the English teacher asked me a question that made me stop throwing questions at myself. He asked, "EunBin, do you see yourself falling behind others?" And I replied, "Yes, or behind." Then he said, "Well, I don't. You're very close, closer than you could think of. And in fact, I see you running ahead of others in the near future. So keep going, you're doing great." From that day on, I was less doubtful of myself. With the smaller steps I took to improve my English and the encouragement from my English teacher, I finally felt confident. I felt motivated to continue giving my best and having more faith in my own knowledge as I kept working on strengthening my weaknesses. Then gradually, I was able to see the results of my effort. At the end of the year exam, which happened 2 months after I came to my current school, I ended up getting high scores in all subjects. It sounds like a lie, right? Yesterday, I couldn't even spell Wednesday properly, but today, I got good grades in writing all the tests in English. But I still felt that was not the estimation of my English skills. Instead, I thought that was the estimation of my efforts. So I applied for a speech contest where I was assessed on how much I've come in improving my English with the same criteria applied to others. I, of course, did not think that it was going to be easy. I failed the first 2 years in auditions, but both times I signed up to be the timekeeper at the actual event where I was able to closely watch and learn what made them possible to pass the audition and what made their speeches good. Then the next year, I passed the audition and I even got an award at the actual event. Yet, I still applied for the next year's contest because it became something that kept telling me that I was going in the right direction. From recklessly ramming my head continuously on the ground for the speech contest, I learned that nothing comes easy. And when it comes with desperate effort, it becomes a very valuable and powerful part of you that allows you to try more. I learned that whatever it is that I want to achieve, despite being clueless about it, I should just start recklessly and learn more during the process of how to be successful. I'm just a normal student whose challenges could be the easiest thing for other students. But to me, what I learned from ramming my head on the ground became like a motor for my life. And anyone could apply similar lessons to their own challenges, larger or smaller. So please turn to the person sitting next to you and tell them out loud, all the challenges you face in your life are meant for you, because people tend to face challenges that they can cope with. Your challenge reflects your capacity. So trust yourself and recklessly face them. The criteria for determining challenges and impossibilities vary from person to person, but at some point in your life, when your plane crashes and you feel completely lost, just do it. Just do it, recklessly, passionately, and see if the ground you rammed your head on was just a hard concrete ground that makes you bleed, or a rich stepping stone to success. Because what broke after ramming my head on the ground was the concrete ground, not my head. Thank you.